I recently discovered this book, 14 Cows for America. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. It was written by Carmen Agradidi, but it was on the story that is shared by Kimberly Neoma. And he writes it, this is a children's book, but he writes his story from his perspective in the back. Could I have picture 5, please? When Kimberly, it's not Kimberly, this is just a group of people from his village. When he was a little boy, he grew up in a small village in Kenya. And when he was little, he fed the nestlings in the bush. And get this, he rescued drowning ants from water puddles. And his mama said he was too gentle to be a fierce Maasai warrior. He especially loved taking care of the cows that belonged to the elders. And he would have loved to have a cow of his own, but his mama was too poor to own one. And he dreamed of the day that he would be able to own a cow. It was his biggest dream. And as a young boy, he spent a lot of time with the grandmas and grandpas, like I said, of the tribe. And they taught him that the Maasai valued not only strength and boldness, but also compassion and kindness towards anyone in need, the orphan, the widow, the stranger. To heal the pain in someone's heart, they told him, you have to give them something that is close in your own heart. When he was older, he won a scholarship to study uni in the United States. And many of the American moms and dads welcomed him into their homes and treated him as they would one of their own children. They showed him kindness by taking him and helping him get an education, and America became his second home. He was in New York City on September 11th, 2001. Like many of us, he saw the devastation, the loss of life, the suffering. His warrior heart could not sit still. He wanted to do something to help. By this time in his life, he had saved up enough money to buy a cow. He decided that this cow would be his offering to the grieving Americans. Why a cow? One, because the cow was a symbol of life to his people. And two, what he said before, to heal the pain in someone's heart, you have to give something that is close to your own heart. But he realized the pain of 9/11 was bigger than his heart. He decided he would ask the elders of his village to bless the cow to make it special, so the gift might take away the sadness from the American hearts. He returned to Kenya the following spring. Now, this village had gotten electricity just shortly before 9/11. Could I have picture 6, please? This is his village. So they just barely had gotten electricity, and believe it or not, many of the Maasai had never even heard about the attack on 9/11, and they definitely never saw the horrific images of planes flying into buildings and people jumping from buildings that were on fire, or firefighters running into buildings that collapsed that were on our televisions. But they listened to the story of what happened in New York City on that tragic day, and they saw the tears that he had, and they were moved. And when he presented his cow for a blessing, others offered up their own precious cows. 14 cows were blessed that day. Now, to understand how big this is, we have to understand what Kimberly says. The cow is almost the center of life for us. It is sacred. It is more than property. You give it a name, you talk to it, you perform rituals with it. I don't know if you have any sacred food in America, something that has a supernatural feel as you eat it. That's the cow for us. And then he shares that when the American ambassador and his wife came to their village to accept the cows, they played the Star-Spangled Banner over the loudspeaker during the ceremony. And he said his people did not understand the song, but they stood with the Americans and placed their hands over their chests. Could I have picture 7, please? He says, seeing hundreds of Maasai standing with him in their traditional red robes and jewelry, some of whom carried banners saying, "To the people of America, we give these cows to help you," made the American diplomat cry. His tears caught the Maasai by surprise, and we were all swept up in the emotion of the moment. A connection between the two cultures had been made. The Maasai felt they had taken some of America's pain into our Maasai hearts. We were helping to heal a people far away. The American diplomats flirted with the idea of shipping these cows to the Central Park Zoo, but that got a little too complicated. So finally, after much deliberation, the American diplomats decided to use the cows to start an education fund for the people of this village. But since the cows were blessed, they could never be slaughtered. So the offspring of these 14 cows are being used to pay for the education of the children of Kimberly's village. The original 14 have become a herd of 35, and the Maasai wish is that every time Americans hear this simple story of 14 cows, they will find a measure of comfort and peace. Here was a village who was moved by the suffering of people they didn't know, but for whom they felt a shared humanity. Mother Teresa diagnosed the world's ills in this way. We've just forgotten that we belong to each other. They remembered they belonged to each other. Currently, there are horrible things being done in the Ukraine. And with the 24/7 news coverage that we have, it's as if we are there. We see the suffering. We see mothers holding their babies and pleading for help. As horrific as this is, there is one good thing that comes. We're reminded that we belong to each other. We are reminded that it matters when other human beings suffer and love is released in the world.